Welcome to the third part in this 4-part series on servicing the Genoa Furler on an AML Super Mariner. Just a reminder that these are maintenance blogs, not instructions, so I'd encourage you to get your information from multiple sources and not just a single source when you're doing this job. So in the previous video, I removed the furler and stripped it down. And this one, I will be putting it back together with serviceable parts that I'll find in Brisbane. Incidentally, I'm not in the engine bay today. It's 40 degrees down there, so I've come ashore. We're actually in Rebak Marina in Malaysia at the moment. That's how long it takes to edit these blogs together. There is an accompanying PDF, which you'll find in our Patreon shop, the link of which will be in the description below the video. So I ordered the bearings and seals from Brisbane Bearings and Industrial Supplies just down the road from where we were anchored, and started putting things back together in reverse order, starting with the worm gear. So the order for the lip seals, the O-rings and the bearings came through. I haven't taken a look at them all yet, but they all look as though they're present and correct. The next thing I need to do is just finish off cleaning the inside of the furler, because there's still a bit of old grease left in there, and the grease nipples, you know, the Zerk fittings have done really well. They've penetrated deep into the gearbox and kept that worm gear going. Now I've got some rubber gasket material. I just need to cut out that gasket. I don't know what happened with the previous owner, but that gasket just wasn't there, and obviously seawater had got in over time and almost goosed the motor, but we managed to bring that back to life. There was just a lot of salt crystals inside there, which obviously led to a lot of corrosion. So I don't want that to happen again, so now I'm going to cut a gasket and put that in place. So this is the motor cover. Rivets, sand. As you can see, there's been some pitting around here where the salt water has been pooling down at the bottom of the cover. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give that a thorough clean, and then I'm going to just fill those pits in with some epoxy just to prevent the water kind of gathering there again. With the worm gear done, I moved on to the main shaft. The shaft housing, if you remember, was in a pretty poor state and it was quite pitted, so I filled those pits with JB Weld and then sanded them down flat. I'm starting to think that the corrosion was caused by this bronze insert butt up against the aluminium, and that's where the corrosion was starting on both the insert piece and the disc on the top. I think we've got a bit of galvanic corrosion going on there. So I've already filled the pits in with some JB Weld, you know, some epoxy, and that's kind of filled in the little dips and smoothed it off, and that'll act as a bit of a barrier anyway. But what I'm going to do is add a bit of Duralac in there as well, just to give it that galvanic corrosion protection, and hopefully should last another 20 years. So just a reminder, if you find these videos useful and you're the type of person who likes to return a favour, then you can buy me a beer by clicking on the super thanks below this video, like these guys did. Thanks fellas, beers on you on Friday. I always find it useful to hang on to the old lip seals and the bearings because they're really good for hammering the new ones in place. At every stage I made sure I filled in all the gaps with plenty of lithium grease. And I replaced those grease nipples or Zerk fittings so I could top up with grease in the future. And now a plug for the Patreon platform where I mentioned that PDF earlier.
Have you ever dreamt of a lifestyle like this? Well, here's some really exciting news for you. You can have access to comprehensive guidance crafted by us, Irenka and Woody, seasoned world cruisers, yachting instructors and parents. We've taught thousands of people how to sail, and as a cruising family, we've sailed tens of thousands of miles across the world's oceans.
Now you can access that knowledge from our Patreon platform. So, if you want to shift your life from traditional school and work towards boat schooling, remote working, minimalist living, and a remarkable life experience, then find out how by visiting www.mothershipadrift.com or click on the links in the description below. See you out there.
So do check out our Patreon platform. We're uploading loads of useful resources up there on a weekly basis for anyone who's trying to escape the rat race. So the gearbox went back a lot easier than I expected. I mean, obviously there was a few little niggles along the way, but nothing that I couldn't get over. Certainly nothing that needed a hydraulic press. I ran out of grease at one point, lithium complex grease. I needed about 800 in the end. Last night I give the whole bench a clear up because there's nothing worse than coming back to a workshop with mess everywhere when you forgot what you're supposed to be doing. So I like to kind of clear up at the end of the day and then sort of start again the next day. I put some paint stripper on the furling drum overnight. Give the gearbox casing a good sand down as well. Give that another light paint. That should be it. I've got to fit the electric motor, make sure that goes. I need to trim back the cables and tidy those up a bit. But I think we're on the final stretch now. So if you remember in the last episode I left that motor with Chris Moore from Braithwaite Electrical, who breathed new life into that motor. So I'll give it a final clean up and give it a good spray down with soft seal before replacing it. And replacing that missing gasket or shim on the housing. So for this I'm using etching primer and then epoxy enamel, which is machinery grey. So then it was back to the boat to sort out the cables. So if you remember in the last video, that locking plate was in a pretty bad state too. And this is where the animal community really came into its own. So Robin D of Jago put us in touch with Jared and Vicky of Jariki, who then put us in touch with Eric.
Eric, who is a guy that actually designs parts for the Australian mining industry, and we found his house and his garden. He had two massive workshops and he was happy to make this locking plate for us. And not only that, he showed us an engine that he's just built, and he showed the kids how it worked, and he was just a fascinating guy, incredible to meet.
And a big thanks to Eric Owen, who remade that locking plate. And the final piece was the V-ring, which although is in the accompanying PDF parts list, it's not in the actual diagram. So here it is here. So a bit of Duralac on the bolts to fit the manual furling drum. And that was it. Well, in the final part of this 4-part series, you'll see that we're rushing to catch a weather window, and so we need to replace the furler as quickly as possible, which was easier to plan than execute, as you'll see in the next video, which involves some stupidly dangerous mast work on my behalf. So if you're an old salty sea dog or an expert with some insights into this job, then leave those insights in the comments below.
That's it, thanks for watching, and be sure to check out our other sailing and travel channel, Mothership Adrift. Thanks in particular to our patrons who make all things possible. If you want to become a patron, just follow the links in the description below. You can also check out our merch store with mugs and t-shirts with our Mothership branding.